ahead. Judith with her apron wine that's red. She's got the spices, smile so bright. Cooking with Judith right by my side. By my side. Chop, chop, sizzle, frying pan heat. From pancakes to a fancy feast. Cooking with Judith, fun to say the least. The least.
Hello and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Judith, and today we're going to make a sweet treat. Now, most of the people I know love baklava, and so do I. Now, there's still an argument as to where it came from. Some people say Turkey, some people say Greece. Well, it started before either of those countries did. It's from Armenia. Way back, around 600 BCE, thereabouts. But today, I'm going to show you a little trick, because most of the recipes I've ever found for baklava make a huge pan. And you're going to be really sick of it by the time you eat that whole pan, or you're going to be giving it away. So, we're going to cut the recipe down. What you'll need is filo, butter, nuts, walnuts, almonds, pistachios, whatever you prefer, sugar, honey, cinnamon, and some lemon, or lemon zest, or vanilla, or a combination of all three. And we're going to get this all together, and it's going to make the most wonderful treat. So first thing we got to do is melt our butter and get our nut mixture done. Back in a sec. So you may ask, how do you make a smaller amount of baklava? As almost every single recipe I've ever seen uses a 9 by 13 inch pan. Well, we're going to use an 8 by 8. Believe it or not, if you cut a 9 by 13 pan in half, that's what you get. Well, surface area wise, an 8 by 8 gives you approximately half the surface area as a 9 by 13 pan has. So we're cutting the recipe in half. What we need while we're waiting for our butter to melt: half a cup of water, half a cup of white sugar, okay, a quarter of a cup of honey, and this will make the syrup that we will pour over our baklava when it's done. So now we're just going to put this on a low heat just to dissolve the sugar. We don't want the heat too high or we will scorch everything. So I'm just going to give it a good stir and then put it on the heat. So for our walnuts, I have 8 ounces of walnuts, and I'm just going to crush them with a rolling pin. Put them in a freezer bag because they're nice and thick. We don't want them too small, so I don't want to use the food processor for this. You could do it in the food processor if you're careful. So let's just pour our crushed walnuts into a bowl. And we want some cinnamon. So I'm going to go with about half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Just remember, we are cutting this recipe down. And you still see some that are rather large chunks, just break them apart. Most of them should be fine. And like I said, we want some texture in this. We don't want it to be powdered. There we go. Okay, so now we set that aside. We're just waiting for our butter to melt and our syrup to cook. Okay, let's talk about the filo dough. Generally, it will come in a 1 pound package. And for a full recipe, you would use the whole pound. But fortunately, it comes in 2 smaller wrapped segments. And when working with filo dough, you do want to keep it covered with a damp towel, or it will dry out. So, unroll this. And just very, very carefully unroll your filo dough. That looks like you have dried out a little bit. Okay, so yeah, but that'll be okay because we're going to be lining the pan. So let me move this aside. Okay, we're going to open this all the way up, and we're going to cut the phyllo dough in half so it will fit in our pan. As I did say, we're using a 8 by 8, not a 9 by 14. There we go. And let's just cover that while we start on the pan. Okay, so we've got out of the way. There's our pan, and we're going to brush it with some of the melted butter. Well, we're going to have a huge sticky stuck mess when we're done. There we go. So let's get back here. For our beginning layer, we do want a fairly thick layer of phyllo dough on the bottom. So I'm going to start with about 2 layers there and fold it over, and we've got a bunch. There we go. Put that in the pan. Yeah. And that's where the lovely ripped up one comes in handy. We can fill in the holes. Don't forget to recover your phyllo, and then brush with butter. And get another couple of sheets. And lay them in the pan. Recover your phyllo as you go. We want several layers of the phyllo on the bottom. So about 8 layers, which the way I'm doing it, that was 8 layers. So then we're going to sprinkle a couple tablespoons, 2 or 3 tablespoons of our filling on. Just try to get it even. And continue with our pastries. You may have noticed I've laid that in the opposite way I laid the first ones in, or the last one in anyway, just so that any spaces at the edges are filled in. Because cutting a sheet that size in half doesn't really give you an 8 by 8. Okay, the reason for starting your syrup before you bake your baklava is so you have time to cool it before you pour it over top. You do not want this screaming hot. And we still have to add our flavorings, which will give it a little bit to cool before we do that. Alright, our syrup has cooked, and yeah, we did let it simmer for a while. We should let it simmer 15 to 20 minutes, make sure all the sugar is dissolved. We're going to add our flavorings. It has had time to cool, so I have about half a teaspoon, maybe a little less, of lemon rind and a half teaspoon of lemon juice. Now you can use vanilla, you can use lemon rind, lemon juice and vanilla, or whatever you prefer. We're just going to let that infuse, and when our baklava is out of the oven and given a moment to cool, we do want to pour this on when the baklava is still hot. And there is our baklava. Before we pour the syrup on it, it's just come out of the oven. That took 45 minutes, so a little less than the full 50 minutes that a larger pan would take. Looks lovely. So let's give it about a minute or two to cool, and then we'll pour on the syrup. Alright, Baklava is ready, syrup is ready, and pouring it on. And you need to do this while the baklava is still hot. You don't want to let it cool too much. And then, in case you thought you were going to get a treat right away, no. You need to let it absorb the syrup for about 4 hours. So I'll see you when it's all soaked up and yummy. And there's our finished baklava. Wonderful, crispy, sweet. And I am serving it with Turkish tea. Probably hasn't steeped long enough. There we go. It is sticky, sweet, and crispy. Makes a wonderful dessert or treat with tea. It actually stores really well. If you want to keep it crispy, keep it at room temperature. You just cover it with some plastic wrap or foil and leave it on the counter. It'll last 7 days. For longer, you put it in the fridge, but it will get hard and chewy. And wrapped tightly or in an airtight container, you can put it in the freezer. I did use walnuts in mine. I usually do. But by all means, you can use whatever nut you like. Pistachios, almonds. I wouldn't use peanuts, but or a mixture. It's a wonderful treat. And as you saw, it's a lot easier to make than you might have thought. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, or joining. So thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate everyone that watches, likes, shares, subscribes. Everything helps my channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you again soon with another video.